This is one of the biggest topics, one of the most important topics, because I had spent majority of my life running away from failure because I was afraid of failure, right? It's one of our biggest fears. That's how we're wired. We're actually wired so that we are constantly looking for all of the things in our environment that could harm us, right? And what happens when we join things like GrowthDay and when we do things like personal development, that actually goes against that. And it says, okay, this is outside of our comfort zone. This is outside of the things that make you feel safe. And these are the things that you should probably avoid. So overcoming adversity and failure is going to have so much to do with our perception of it. So it's really about realizing that some of that failure and some of that adversity they're very different, right? The level of failure around failing to drive well in a car is a very serious failure compared to maybe screwing up on stage or screwing up in something that screwing up in a business or even losing money. Like, these are things that can often be fixed, right? So it's our perception of it. So that's what I want to talk about today, is mostly the perception. Because for me, when I truly started to see how life is giving me examples of how failure and how adversity are actually great things for me, is when I started to completely be able to reframe, grow really quickly, and become the person that I wanted to be. So I want to talk about that. So are we viewing it as the thing that is harming us? Are we viewing it as the thing that could destroy us? Are we viewing it as the thing that has ruined our lives, right? Are we viewing that adversity? Are we viewing that failure as that time in your life that you can't come back from? Or could we view it as our greatest teacher? Our greatest teachers in life are sometimes the things that really challenge us the most, and that has forced us to change, to become that person. And have you guys heard the quote, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you? And sometimes we create these goals that we're like, oh, this is easy. Like, maybe we did it a little bit and it really didn't create the result that we wanted because it didn't necessarily push us to the edge. It didn't necessarily make us become somebody different in the process. And these are the types of things that you're going to grow from, is when you observe that these challenges are actually making you so challenged that you have to become a different person in order to overcome them. So there's always two really clear choices that we can take from our challenges and from our adversities. Like, I want you to think back about the hardest things in your life, or the things that you think are your biggest failures, right? The things that you just feel like were the stumbling blocks of your life. And we can either be the victim of those things, right? We can view them as the things that stripped us of our power. We can view them, the reasons why maybe things aren't going the way that we want. We can be the victim of those things. Or we can make those exact things. We can make those exact things the reason why we're here on the planet. It could be the reason why we need to go and do the thing. It can become our greatest purpose that we have in the world. So you have to remember that it's always just here for you, right? It's here for me. And I know that that can be a really tough thing because we've all had different things happen in our lives where many of you could absolutely throw the towel in, and many people would understand why you're doing that, right? But at the end of the day, the result of throwing in the towel is that you are still in pain, or the result of blaming the thing, even though it was a terrible thing that happened, you are still in pain, or the result of viewing it as, what was this here to teach me? What was it here to teach me so that I could teach other people? How could I turn this into my purpose? The result of viewing it like that is going to give you strength. It's going to give you power. So at the end of the day, yes, there's always a choice that you could make that people would understand why you're viewing it that way. But there's also the choice that frees you. There's also the choice that gives you so much purpose, right? There's also the choice that's going to help you wake up every day and remember that you could be helping people who went through what you went through. So I love Ryan Holiday, who talks about the obstacle is the way. And I really have learned in my life that where the resistance is, where that fear of failure is, that is like the X that marks the spot for where I need to go, where the next treasure is lying beneath it. So, thinking of the different points in my life where I have overcome challenges where I could have blamed or been the victim. And I just was kind of listing the different times out in my life that I had chosen for a while to be a victim of it. And I went way back in my past, way back in my history. And I've shared this quite a few times on here, but growing up as a teenager, growing up in my family, my whole family was really overweight. We all struggled with our weight. I went on my first diet at 8 years old. So I was always told that we had bad genetics and that I would be overweight my whole life and it would just get worse and it would just get harder. And this was how it was. And this was going to be something that we had to deal with. And so along with when you're not healthy and when you don't have healthy habits, I was dealing with so much anxiety. I was dealing with a lot of depression at a young age. And I used to think that I was the victim of poor genetics. I used to want to blame my family. I used to want to be like, why is this happening to me? And it wasn't until I shifted, how could this be happening to me? Or what could this be happening to me for? What are the things that I have control over? What can I do about this? And it wasn't until I had the realization that I did have some power over it, I could be making different choices, and that I actually went through that entire experience growing up for a purpose. So what happened is that I had to learn how to solve that problem for myself. And what it made me realize is that I had a massive purpose to learn how to share how to solve this for other people.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember and you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.